and Safe's Committee on Banking Regulations meets with the Central Bank Governor for an interactive session on policy measures and strategies to address domestic macroeconomic challenges.
For a country that relies on imports, this exchange rate crisis is not just an inconvenience, it is devastating. Nigerians are yet to see any real improvement in their day-to-day lives. Again, I feel we are all responsible. Unemployment, which increased by 5.3% in the first quarter of 2024, continues to climb as businesses are forced to cut jobs, largely due to harsh monetary environment and an unstable exchange regime.
The governor of the CBN speaks on plans to address the spiraling inflation in the country.
Our focus has been on how to stabilize the economy, restore investor confidence in financial markets, and provide a seamless path to sustainable growth.
The country's GDP growth rate, which has been a major concern, is also in focus, as Mr. Cardoso shares what could be some good news.
Projections indicate a growth rate of 3.2% and 3.3% for 2024 and 2025 respectively. Although positive, these estimates remain below historical averages, suggesting moderate rather than robust expansion. In the second quarter of 2024, the economy grew by 3.19%, up from 2.51% in the corresponding period of last year, driven largely by non-oil sector. Similarly, the industrial sector has shown remarkable improvement, with its growth rate surging to 3.53% from 0.31%.
According to Mr. Cardoso, the foreign exchange reserves have grown significantly to $39.12 billion as at October 11, 2024, from $34.70 billion at the end of June 2024, driven largely by foreign capital inflows, receipts from crude oil-related taxes, and third-party. Terry Ikumi, Channels Television News.
Yes, indeed. So we've got Mr. Humphrey Abba here with us. He is a former Minister of Trade and Investment and former Minister of Police Affairs. Good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Good morning, Chamberlain.
Well,
good morning, Walker.
Much as we've heard the narrative from the CBN and the finance persons, though we also did hear from the Vice President earlier this week, speaking about how they seem to have arrested the decline. The Minister of Budget and Planning equally on the same page with them in terms of what they're doing. So for you, all of these policies, I know haven't been there, you might understand how government views all of these things as against what perhaps presidents may say, because they expected to have the bigger picture of all of those policies and how it's affecting things. So could you tell us, how do you relate with the narratives that they put out?
Thank you very much for having me in the first place. I will straight on say that these are more theoretical than practical. You are promoting, they are really not figures that I consider to be lateral. They are domiciled more in the finance sectors. And these finance sectors have no relationship with the real sectors that you could classify as the areas of growth. What are these real sectors? Agriculture, industry. They have said that industry is growing. I don't see the industries that are growing. You and I
They said marginally, but not as expected.
I don't see the industries that are growing, because when there is growth, the effect will be felt by the populace. But what we have today is hardship remarks.
What do you think is the missing link?
Missing link is that we have imported policies from outside our needed areas.
Imported?
Yeah, I think so.
What do you mean?
We seem to be implementing policies that are just thrown at us.
How?
If you read the papers from time to time, you hear the World Bank reeling out needs for intervention, need for this, need for that. All these so-called deregulation that we are going through. No nation does those things because it comes at a cost. It comes at a very serious cost to the citizens. And that's why we are having spiral inflation. But I saw in The Guardian this morning, Guardian or Independent, that you put forward in your prologues. Inflation at 32-point-something%. Who survives that? And you say there is growth? Growth should match it if there is growth.
In terms of this policy,
so that you can nil out the figures.
Yeah. In terms of these policies that you refer to, while you were in government, you can't tell us the same thing didn't happen, implementing those policies.
No, we didn't have such. We had a very stable system that people could project. We had a very stable system that you will know for the entire period that PDP was in government in this country. We had stability in prices.
Yeah, but you implemented.
We had stability in prices. There was growth in agriculture.
No, but you can't claim
there was growth in the industrial sector.
You can't claim the government did not implement any international development partner policy.
No, we didn't have dictations from international development partners. I can tell you that. We didn't have those dictations. And that was why you had a robust economy. You had industries that were functioning well. Today, industries are closing up. Are you not aware that industries are leaving this country? Are you not aware of the divestment going on?
Yeah, but industries have been closing up for a while, and even before those policies came into being.
Yeah, the ones that do daily needs are also going out. And that is where the challenge is. If you now have to begin to import your toothpaste, you now have to begin to import your bath soap, you now have to begin to import very, very sadly, palm oil, then you have a problem. Because these are daily needs that goes to the ordinary man on the street. The person in my village.
There were questions, though, as to why we will import palm oil when we are a country. I mean, when you just travel over the Niger Delta, for instance, you see, palm just growing by itself sometimes, maybe as a result of dispersion of seeds. We're a country so blessed in that regard. So there will be questions as to why we should be importing something that grows willy-nilly on our soil.
Yes, because this goes to what I said before. When they reel out these figures to us, it does not relate to the real sector. Now, when you say that, there is a robust growth in our financial sector, I think if you go and search it, if you go and scrutinize it, it will be the same people who are reinvesting. It will be the same people who are trying to keep a tab, to keep a hold, to keep ownership of what they already have, right? No. So, but how do you now relate that? The question is, how does that now grow the real sector, the agricultural sector? In fact, my point is that our agricultural sector should take the quantum leap in growth before you can talk about growth in the economy, because that one goes to affect every home.
Yeah, but hasn't that always been the issue? The question of diversification of our economy. I mean, most times when we talk about it, we're always talking about agriculture, even just to grow the agri sector. It has been a challenge over the years. I do remember Madam Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, while she was Minister of Finance, talking about how they're trying to see, even when Nigeria was growing as much as 6%, 7%, they're trying to see how there could be growth in the real sector, because a lot of that growth was influenced by our earnings from crude oil. It was not really about generality of the populace, adding to that growth. What exactly, from your own experience and the FEC meetings that you have attended, what would you say has been the obstacle in our way in being able to make that push really happen in agriculture?
Number one, most generic is that government is not consciously investing in agriculture, it's not subsidizing agriculture. A lot of governments across the country, across the world.
It's not subsidizing or subsidizing enough.
They are not subsidizing enough agriculture. There should be major subsidy going into agriculture. And what are these subsidies? I'm not asking that you give handouts to farmers. give them mechanized equipments to grow agriculture. We are still at subsistence level of agriculture. We are still at the rudimental level of agriculture. Get this equipment. The equipments are there. They are worldwide. They are available. Get these equipments and give them to farmers, right? Get harvesters and give to farmers. And before you know it, there will be an increase in tonnage in terms of production. Those in the animal husbandry increase their capacity to multiply what they are doing on the field. Now, we are not doing all of that, and there is no funding. That's the sad part. There is no funding going to this sector currently. Because when you talk about giving the man on the farm agricultural loan that in 6 months he starts to repay, how do you expect him to do that?
But there's a bank of agric.
Yes. Have you gone to find out how they fund? Are they funding? Are they funding? They should give us their spreadsheets. You are seeing the spreadsheets of the commercial bank. Now we are going into the trillions. Thank God for that. They are making profit. But what is the Bank of Agric doing? In some other, in developed countries, their Bank of Agriculture has about the biggest balance sheets.
Well, in terms of some of the things you've said, we're just trying to, because we're trying to see what is it that has to be done so that people can feel the impact beyond some of the policies that have just been announced. Because when you were in government too, your government announced policies too that people felt were a little few and far between. Several projects will happen in that time because a simple check will show us the Fadama 3 project was in 2010, your government was in power at that time. Several Nigeria multi-sector crisis recovery project, your government was there at that time. Nigeria commercial agri-development project, your government was there at that time. They were all World Bank projects.
Well,
now,
commercial, permit me to interrupt you here. Commercial agriculture, right? I coordinated part of the events in commercial agriculture, rice production. And that was when you saw the uptick of the increase in domestic farming for rice. And that was replicated in a few other crops. And that is why you now find out that you have a lot of Nigerian growers and millers.
The point I'm making is that, not that this didn't happen, even though we'll double check. What we're saying is that governments in this country implement World Bank projects and other international agency projects. So when you make it look as if that
No, get me right, Chamberlain.
Yes.
Implementing World Bank propositions should not be a copy and paste.
Okay, so now you change from implementing at all to copy and paste.
Yeah, what is happening is copy and paste.
Okay. So
you can borrow idea from anywhere. You can borrow idea from anywhere, but tinker with it and domesticate it.
So what I'm trying to also drive at
what they are doing now is copy and paste.
Okay,
that's killing all of us.
What we're trying to point out is different governments come in and tell Nigerians that, oh, we are trying to do the best. For instance, this government now, I think it was not long after the president got elected, he said they declared an emergency in the agri sector. And then they announced certain policies. We've seen 1 or 2 states purchase agri equipment for their states, saying this is their way of subsidizing. But at the end of the day, people always say, look, it's not affecting the scheme of things in terms of availability and prices. So it's trying to understand what should we be doing differently? Because when governments announce these things, are they really thinking about the people? Do they have the right template to implement these projects?
Well, Chamberlain, what you see that is going on is, let me call it a television advertorial. Because it really does not trickle down. Because if it trickles down, you will also begin to see the positive effect coming back. These things are not cast in stones. We have the land, right? But do we have the equipment to cultivate the land on a large scale? No, we don't. And the states you are talking about, that, they have bought these equipments and they are giving the equipment to farmers. Can the farmers go to farm? You have great insecurity in most of the places, and farmers can no longer go to farm.
So what do we...
Is it not government's responsibility?
Governments at both, because we have both, those two leading parties are in government in different states.
Government,
what are they doing differently?
No. Security is the principal responsibility of federal government. Security is the principal, because as you read your constitution, security is the principal responsibility of the federal government.
You were Minister of State for Police Affairs.
No, I was Minister of Police Affairs.
Okay, you were, sorry, Minister of Police. Where did that state come from? Minister of Police Affairs.
You
were the one.
Minister of State is
I understand.
Creation.
You were the one in charge at the time.
Yes.
So, would you, for instance, because now the states are saying, look, we're not in control of security, just as you have said. Would you have supported state police so that they can be in control and provide security for agriculture?
Sadly, I will not support state police.
Oh, okay.
I will not support state police for obvious reasons. Because of our extreme behavioral patterns. Because of our, the way our mannerisms, we use government institutions wrongly. If we have a state police today, you will have untoward crisis in the 36 states of the Federation that you will not be able to handle.
Yet, we know that the only way for us to be able to effectively police our citizens and make sure that everyone feels safe is to make sure that each layer of government at least has some form of security that it can command.
Yes. What is wrong with enabling the Nigerian police, with equipping the Nigerian police, with increasing manpower for the Nigerian police? Because you are still looking at the same people. You are only looking at nomenclature now. Is this state? Is it local government? Is it federal? Why don't you warehouse this thing in one place? And let us have a binding rule that is that everybody will obey. But the challenge we have in our system...
That's what we've always done.
The challenge we have in our system is that people do not obey rules. If we all obey rules, one police is sufficient for us for now. Let us increase capacity for the Nigerian police. One
centralized police.
We
have a president, we have governors, we have local government chairmen, however it is they come into office, even though we don't agree. But we think that we should have executive power at different layers. But when it comes to the police, we should have one central authority.
Yeah, we should have, I think we should have one central authority for now. You know, because it is to prevent abuse. The abuse you will get from decentralizing the police will be very unbearable.
But you people already have the police decentralized in your own way, because ministers, governors, you all have police aides that follow you everywhere when you were ministers. That happens, but the people don't have it. So that's why people can comfortably say,
Chamberlain, you see, get what I'm advocating.
The same politicians who are the ones enjoying every perks.
Get what I'm advocating.
What are you advocating?
It's not just for the politicians. What I'm advocating is that we should increase manpower for the police.
We've always done that.
The police is grossly understaffed, and they are grossly ill-equipped. The police is ill-equipped. So you look at it, if you are going around, I don't know, I'm sure you have policemen at your facility here. Do they have a vehicle attached to them? They take commercial transport to come here.
You're sure about that?
Where in the world do you do that?
I don't know. I'm trying to understand what you mean.
No, what I'm saying is that we should increase equipment and facilities for police to work. We have a very capable police force.
No, our security have all they need here in the office.
Oh, yeah, in your office. Yeah, that's
any security that comes here, we give them what they require.
But the point I'm making, Chamberlain, is that we should increase manpower for the police force. We should increase equipment for the police force. We should increase welfare for the police force.
My apologies, I hate to jump in at this, but what if people, is that really the issue or the solution? Because the crux of this matter is, When they say there's vacancy in the police, it is you politicians that will send lists to those places. It's your cronies that will enter into those places. And so when they get in there, they feel nobody can do anything to me because my godfather is there. Those are the issues. No. So no matter what you give to them, they still feel, no, you can't do anything. That's why they behave, some of them behave the way they do.
No, you see,
that happens.
I regret to disagree with you, honestly.
How?
I regret to disagree with you. Can you do a search and find out in the last 10 years how many police people have been enlisted?
Are you telling us that politicians don't submit lists of those to be employed in the police force?
You see, maybe some people do, but no, I'm not aware. Maybe some people do. Yeah, people might be doing that, but I cannot come here and say, oh, I know of it. You know, because I remember that when we recruited people for Course 1 in Woodale, they had a competitive test. It was done very transparently, and I think the police still has a machinery for achieving that. But you are even looking at the officer cadre. We have a lot of steps downward, the rank and file, who do the daily job. So we need to increase manpower enormously for the police. The police is grossly understaffed. So they cannot meet up. The local governments, the wards, the states. So we need to increase capacity for the police, increase equipment for the police, you know, so that they can secure the farmlands, so that they can secure our areas for farmers to be able to go to farm. As it is now, can you do agriculture really?
Those who are doing it are doing it. But let's quickly, excuse me, take the conversation to Lagos, because I know Ayo has questions for you.
Thank you, Malkwe. So one of the things that registers in my heart about the argument you're making, particularly about whether or not to have state police, is the fact that already the states play a significant role in kitting policemen assigned to their states. They buy the vehicles, they provide some measure of welfare just to help them to be able to do a little more. Now, significant chunks of budget is assigned by states to keep their policemen so that they can be able to do better. Even at that, we still hear, you know, some people say that the DPOs in the states are saying, in the various states are saying, look, we don't have enough. So whatever it is that we can get from here and there, these are the things that we use. We don't have fuel for our vehicles, even though the states are, they're in particular states, their budgets are very, very limited. Not just the personnel now, but even the resources available to them. If the states were to take charge of these expenses, don't you think it'll be, I mean, legitimately, legally, constitutionally, don't you think it'll be a relief and then we'll be able to have better access to security?
That is easier said than done, Ayo. You see, the policing comes with a lot of cost. Policing comes with a lot of cost because these are officers who are supposed to be extremely mobile. They are supposed to be extremely mobile with high-tech equipment for crime detection and prevention. And when states say they fund police, I appreciate the contribution they make thus far, but I think they can do a lot more better, and they can do it by pulling resources together at the center for now. Because the idea of state police, to me, will, on the long run, take us back to the 50s and 60s. And we are aware of the challenges that this country had gone through in the days of regional police. We do not want to go back to it. The altercations will be, the abuses and altercations, will be enormous. They will be creating a new frontier of challenges for security management. And I think it's better we run a streamline. If we can run this streamlined process of the police being at the center and it being properly used and managed, and it being properly equipped. The first thing is equipping the police. Look, what the states are giving, I appreciate their contribution, modest contribution, but it's a far cry. Completely. It's a far cry. You need to know that if you have 10 or 50 DPOs, for instance, in a particular state, you have 50 divisional police stations in a particular state. Go and check it, cross-check it. You're a pressman, go around and find out how many of them have functional vehicles that can run throughout their divisions.
But just as you said, then,
for the day, for each day.
Well, Mr. Abba, just as you said, the resources, the shortcomings that they have is because even the states are not beholden. They don't have to fund the police. But as you very well know, the resources coming from the federal government is not enough to take care of all of the police stations or police facilities all over the country. 774 local governments were supposed to have at least one person heading the police force there. But I don't think, just as you have said, the resources are very short. If the states took that on, with some significant measures to curtail excesses, you don't think it is something that can be done?
You know, in the time past, Ayo, they had a joint meeting at the center. I'm aware of that. They had a joint meeting at the center where the governors and had a meeting with government at the center, and they had a central pool where they contributed a particular percentage of their budget to funding the police. And this budget was used in buying equipment and things and strengthening the police force. It was regrettably the activities of some of our governors that collapsed that process. And I am aware that there is a law now for police equipment funds where companies make contributions and all of that. But I think we can do more. Security is a major cost head all over the world. Go and look at budgets of countries. You will know that we are not spending anything near it yet. I think that our budget should devote between 10 to 15% to issues of our security, especially with the police force, because that is the arm that relates to civil obedience. That is the arm that deals with civil issues. That is the group you see on a daily basis. So equipping them and getting them to be on the go when they are needed is very essential.
Okay.
Well, go to most police stations. You will find out that the states are not true. You know, we are not getting enough support for them. Let's put in more support. It is not what we advertise on the pages of newspaper or on television, but let us see it on ground play out. That these states are actually funding and supporting the police. It's not enough to say give us state police. Running a police force is not it's not a child's play.
Well, absolutely, that is
highly capital intensive.
Yeah,
it's highly capital intensive.
Yes, one other thing that was mentioned earlier in your conversation with Chamberlain is the recruitment process. Not once, not twice have we had this back and forth between the Police Service Commission and the Nigeria Police. And the police is saying, on the one hand, the kind of people that are selected to come work for us, they are largely unqualified. Some of them do not belong there. And meanwhile, the PSC is saying, look, your job, our job is to recruit, your job is to train them and the rest of them. From what you know, from your experience as, having operated with the police system in the country, what really is the issue here, particularly concerning the recruitment process? You said we don't have enough policemen, granted, but what's the problem with recruiting more people? What's the problem with the process of communication? Why do we occasionally have that altercation between the Police Service Commission and the Nigeria Police?
In every human management, you have challenges of differences. But I think that has been largely resolved by the Police Act. That has been largely resolved, and the law is very clear now and unambiguous as to who has powers to recruit. The long absence of constant recruitment and training over the years. Remember that we went through a process that wasn't democratic. And for the entirety of that period, the police force was not getting the deserved attention. You find out that our police colleges, police training institutions did not witness required expansions throughout those days. So you will, it's a backlog. It's a long backlog that needs to be catered for.
Okay.
You retire, for instance, in the civil service, people retire on a yearly basis. That's what happens to the police. People grew and retire on a yearly basis. But we had no replacement over years. 20, 30 years. We had no replacement. We had no refilling commensurate to the increase in population. So that had created a gap. So the issue of recruitment that you are talking about has been resolved by the Police Act.
Well, let's hope that is true. But one other thing, one last quick one. Also talking about security, is food security. I know Chamberlain also mentioned that earlier, and you were trying to speak to it one way or the other. But the issue of food production is something that the states themselves can handle. Back in time, we had a situation where we called certain states. We knew certain states for certain food crops and all of that. We don't seem to have that now. Do you think that the governors are up to date on the realities on their hands? Today is World Food Day, and we are still talking about high food inflation. Do you think do you see a role for them to play to jumpstart this particular process? So we're not talking about food scarcity or food unavailability within the shortest possible time.
I see a role for all governments at all levels to play in terms of food production, not just governors, local government councils, governors, the federal government. I tried to allude to that earlier by talking about the intervention we had during our days in commercial agriculture, growing commercial agriculture using the Bank of Industry, and all of that. So the governors, the local government, the federal government can do a lot by investing in equipment for large-scale agricultural production. There's no magic to it. Large-scale agricultural production. There is a foreign company that came in at that time that under review in 2007, 2008, and you know, they went to a nearby state, Nasarawa. I think today they are about the largest producers of rice in Nigeria. They have very big rice farms that is mechanically driven, from planting to harvest to milling. Everything is automated. So if we can have more of that replicated across the country for other crops, for daily need crops, honestly, we will be reducing this tension about food security.
All right.
Because our major problem now is food security. And to help that, we must have security for farmers to go to farm.
All right, we need to anchor at that point, and thank you very much indeed for coming on this morning. Mr. Humphrey Abba, former Minister of Police Affairs, and also is in the Interior Ministry, as a matter of fact. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you, Shamalin. Thank you, Mogwe.
All right, Business Morning on Sunrise City comes up now.